let us discuss the rigid body rotation. First, let us discuss the simple concepts, and then slowly we can proceed to the complex concepts. All of you know very well in kinematics you learned the properties of translatory motion. In translatory motion, all the particles will have same velocity. Suppose you are moving in a bus, the velocity of the bus driver and velocity of you, and for that matter velocity of your luggage, obviously will have same velocity. But in rotatory motion, the best example you see everyday life is a fan is rotating in a horizontal plane with its axis vertical. You can clearly see different particles will have different velocities. Here, axis of rotation is defined as the locus of centers of all the circles traversed by different particles. You can see here, suppose a body is in a translatory motion, the velocity of this particle, velocity of this particle, and velocity of this particle, and velocity of center of mass are equal. That is a translatory motion. In this case, in rotatory motion, I have taken a pure rotatory motion. Pure rotatory motion means at least one particle on the body should be at rest. We come into the definition later. Now, you can clearly see that these particles which are nearer will have a velocity of r1 omega, a particle which is farther will have a velocity of r2 omega and r2 greater than r1. So, therefore, v2 greater than v1 in magnitude. Not only that, if you see here in this direction, in this part of the disc or fan, the velocities are in opposite direction to the earlier given velocities. So, this is the main difference between translatory motion and rotatory motion. In translatory motion, all the particles will have same velocity in magnitude and direction, and their velocity is also equal to velocity of center of mass. Whereas in rotatory motion, different particles will have different velocities, both in magnitude also, even direction also. Now, let us come to pure rotation. In pure rotation, at least one point will be in instantaneous rest. We will come to later, the point may be outside the body also. You may wonder how it is possible, but we will discuss it later. Now, let us see an example. A rigid body of some shape is rotating about some axis. In this case, all the particles are revolving in circular motions, and their centers lies on one line. The locus of centers of all these circular motions is called axis of rotation. But in this case, all the points on the axis of rotation are at rest. So, from our earlier definition, this comes under pure rotatory motion. Now, here also you can see rod is rotating and this is hinge, and here point is at rest. This you can call it as a pure rotatory motion. And another one is combined translated rotatory motion. As a shortcut, we will call this type of motion in future as CTRM. Here center of mass also will have velocity. You can clearly see the body is rotating as well as translating. But one important point you have to remember, CTRM can be treated as pure rotation also. For example, in this example just now we have seen a rod rotating, let us say in a horizontal smooth surface with one end hinged. That means its axis of rotation will be in a vertical line. So, here you can see the body is rotating also, one point is at rest also. So, from earlier definition, because one point is at rest, we can call it as pure rotation. For the next definition, center of mass is having velocity, therefore, we can treat it as combined translatory and rotatory motion. Now let us in detail discuss about pure rotation. Consider a body which is axis is fixed like this, and all the centers are lying in the axis of rotation. Center of mass velocity also 0. This is called pure rotation. So here one important point you have to remember is omega is same for all the particles in the body. Omega is the angular velocity which are known in circular motion. Now let us find out the kinetic energy of different particles. This particle velocity is r1 omega, this particle velocity r2 omega. So half m1 v1 square, half m2 v2 square plus and so on. Now take half omega square common, you will get m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square and so on. Right. And if you write this this part of the kinetic energy as half sigma mr square omega, mathematical notation, then this sigma mr square omega is called as moment of inertia. And why it is called inertia and why the moment of inertia, that we will see in future discussion. So now as of now you have to remember kinetic energy is equal to half I omega square. And the moment of inertia for continuous mass distributions, it is better to represent instead of sigma as integration. So we will represent I is equal integration of dm r square. We did not write limits because limits suitable limits we will take according to the cases. Now let us see different examples of moment of inertia. So moment of inertia of a uniform rod about an axis passing through center and perpendicular to its length. Now consider a rod, uniform rod of length L and mass M and mass capital M. Let us say mass capital M. Now consider an axis passing through center and perpendicular to the length of the rod. Axis is important because with respect to axis, moment of inertia values will change. Now all the mass elements distances you should measure from this axis. Let us take a small elemental length of dx, which is obviously the distance of x. So from our earlier definition, I is equal to integration of dm x square. Dm is the mass of this element and x is the perpendicular distance. Here please remember x is the perpendicular distance, and dm you can write it as mass per unit length into length m by l into dx. So in the place of dm I can substitute m by l into dx x square, and the rod is extending from minus L by 2 to plus L by 2 if you take axis as the origin. So the limits will be minus L by 2 to plus L by 2, and that will be equal to ml square by 12. If the axis is passing through the edge and perpendicular its length, then I is equal to same integration m by l x square dx 0 to L. Now because now I have taken this as the origin, that will comes out to be ml square by 3. Now moment of inertia of a ring about an axis passing through its center and perpendicular its plane. Now consider a ring, consider a small element dm here, obviously the distance of radius from the axis. I is equal integration of dm r square take outside, integration of dm. Here you note that all mass elements are at the same distance from the axis of rotation. So r is same. So take r square outside, integration of dm is nothing but total mass, that is equal to mr square. Now let us consider the moment of inertia of a disc about an axis passing through center and perpendicular its plane. So see, let us suppose this is a disc with so much of mass everywhere. We can see clearly here mass, here also there is mass. But now my focus is only on one small part on a thin ring of thickness dx and radius x, because already you derived the moment of inertia of the ring as mr square. That derivation you can use this. Now we are doing integration. Now I am finding moment of inertia of moment of inertias. So let us first find out moment of inertia of ring of radius x and thickness dx. As already we found out, its formula is mr square. Here I am writing di, m means dm, r means x here, dm x square, and dm is the mass of this red part, small thickness part, that is equal to mass per unit area into area. Mass per unit area is sigma, that is called surface charge density. Area of the small thick part is length into thickness, that is 2 pi x dx. So you can clearly see in the place of dm you can substitute sigma 2 pi dx. So now total moment of inertia is the integration from 0 to r, because so many rings we can carve out from this disk, and 0 to r dm x square. Dm is sigma 2 pi x dx, then it will become sigma 2 pi integration of 0 to r x cube dx, limits from 0 to r. Then after simplification you will get mr square by 2. In between don't forget to substitute sigma is equal to m by pi r square, mass per unit area.